morning. Good morning. Good morning. It is August 16th, Tuesday, August 16th. I can't believe it. We're in mid-August and the journey continues. This is, again, it's a blessing to be with you all this morning. Hopeful that your week has started out going just as well as mine. Let me see, making sure that this morning we've got some internet issues, so I want to make sure that we get those taken care of before we do too much else. But how are you doing? Go ahead and put it in the chat. Let me know how you're doing this morning. How's it going? How's life treating you? Anything exciting that you have afoot that you want to share? Any questions that you have, go ahead and drop them in the chat. Any comments go ahead and we'll get to them, because remember, this is your time. Good morning, Sky. This is your time. And I'll say it again. Guten Morgen. Jackie Glass, Mama, Navy vet, certified doer, and laced up legislator for the House of Delegates, 89th District. This is our morning debrief. How do we get up and get debriefed so early to start our day? So last Thursday, I had a lot of folks asking last Thursday, nope, I didn't do a live last Thursday. And I'm still meant to check as to why. There was a reason why I ended up not doing a live. And I think I need to find some contingency measures to make sure that I'm able to let folks know when I'm not going to be on live. Just so that you know, like check the feed and stuff. We'll make sure I put up a post that says that won't be there. So, but I'm grateful that you guys are here and you're getting up and you're ready to go. First of all, there was a missing 15-year-old in Norfolk who has been found safely. So for those of you guys who've seen those posts, I got the update yesterday on my phone that they found her. Could not imagine that feeling of your child coming up missing. So they did find the 15-year-old. But I wanted to take some time today, and please, if the internet gets weird, make sure that you let me know. Let me know in the comments, because I'm relying on you for this, because it's been a little weird this morning. So I'm going to slide this over here. So I wanted to, way back when we were talking about the PACT Act, right? The PACT Act was a piece of legislation at the federal level that allowed veterans who were by burn pits to claim the benefit, because a lot of them were dying or had issues directly related to the burn pits, and there was this negotiation between what's happening at the federal level, why they won't pass it. And I briefly talked about the Inflation Reduction Act. And I briefly talked about the Inflation Reduction Act and was like, yeah, there were some things that they were saying is in the Inflation Reduction Act, which is why they're holding off on signing the PACT Act and those two things. And we're like, why are they playing games? Well, yeah, it is what it is. So now the Inflation Reduction Act was passed, and I wanted to, I did a little bit of homework, just finding the things that may be connected, so that you guys can have a better understanding of the Inflation Reduction Act. So let me see, where am I at? So it passed right last Saturday, and then I think the good morning, neighbor. So this legislation, it's a landmark legislation. If you haven't, like me, I got 3 pieces of newspaper on the table because the neighbor gives me paper. So it's going to help small businesses and working families by investing in the deficit to fight inflation, right? Because we've got a huge deficit. It is going to increase manufacturing, because we've got a heavy dependency. Actually, manufacturing right now is a matter of national security. If China decided to bat their eye and not send us stuff, we'd be in a shout place, all right? So, manufacturing is a huge deal, lowering drug prices, and leveling the playing field for the modest minimum tax that ensures that the wealthiest corporations give back some of that money to this society that quite frankly enriches them. So there's a lot of things happening in the Inflation Reduction Act, and I just wanted to go through a couple different things. 5 of them I got this from a Forbes article, which I can put in the chat. So 5 things, right? And then we'll go into some more news. So 1, it will not raise taxes on the vast majority of small business and working family. So it's not funded by way of increasing personal taxes on small business or families making under $400,000, which is roughly 98% of all Americans are not making making under $400,000, which is roughly 98% of Americans. So that's a piece. So the investments are going to fight inflation, right? So it's not not going to be a tax increase or raise on any of us, so that you know. All right. So second, the bill, it significantly increases a really important small business tax. So it doubles the refundable research and development tax credit for small businesses. So right now there's what happens is like when you're starting a business, you may not know this, but like, so when I first started my business in I think it was 18 or 17, right? Maybe it was 18. When the first time I was able to file my taxes, I was able to claim back to when I actually filed that business and claim some of the things I used to get my business going. So the credit can be applied against like payroll taxes and expenses, including product development and technology. So if I'm getting all these things to try to put my product together, let's say I'm making cookies and I'm testing these things out, testing, this applies to that. And small business have to do a lot of that, sometimes making prototypes of things, and prototypes aren't always technology. Sometimes it's that cake, sometimes it's that purse, sometimes it's those earrings. It increased funding for the IRS. Increased funding for the IRS will not be used to target small businesses or working families. So the bill does provide $80 billion in additional funding for the IRS. But there was another article that they did about a tour of the IRS in Austin where they were utilizing technology from the 70s to process IRS returns. Did y'all hear that? They were using technology from the 70s to process returns. So while the additional funding could be hiring additional staff, they're going to be trying to do some direct hiring additional staff. They will be directed towards seeking revenue from taxpayers and corporations, right? Hello, that money's going to be directed at seeking money from taxpayers and or corporations making over $400,000 a year who have used tax gimmicks to not pay their fair share. Okay, so again, this is all in the inflation. So this is not going to be focused on middle class Americans. That's the Inflation Reduction Act. 4, the legislation will make prescription drugs more affordable without hurting innovation. It expands Medicare benefits by capping out the out-of-pocket. So if you had to pay out-of-pocket, it can get ridiculous. So they're going to cap the out-of-pocket cost to $2,000 and allow Medicare to negotiate prices for about 100 different types of drugs that it selects for its users. It also sets these provisions to the American Care Act to save an average of like $800 a year in the marketplace. So like that's a big deal. That's a huge deal. So lastly, the inflation, and if you have questions, comments, or concerns, do not hesitate. Oh, I saw Quincy. Hey, good morning. Include insulin included. Yes, Vince. Anything, put it in the chat. So the Inflation Reduction Act will not raise gas prices, but will move us towards energy independence. So when this war started in Ukraine, y'all, I think we all were like, God dang. Oh, wow. It's really loud squirrels over there. It highlighted this war in Ukraine. It highlighted how important it was for us in America and our allies to pursue some energy independence. All right. Too many people were feeling it. present company included, small businesses felt the effect of the cost of it. It was costing them too much, and so the law will begin to start making some investments in clean energy, because we kind of need to do it. We cannot have something like this happen to us again. So one of the ways the bill is funded is through, how did they fund this, which is important, right? Like, where y'all gonna get the money at? If y'all gonna reduce the deficit, what y'all doing making more money, So one of the ways this package is funded is through a tax increase of 16.4 cents per barrel tax on crude oil and imported petroleum products, which is good, right? Those are things. So like, just so that you guys understand what this, I wanted to make sure, because there's probably going to be a lot of talks about the Inflation Reduction Act, a whole bunch of talk about it as we move forward. And I just wanted to make sure that as we talk about the relationship to here in the Commonwealth, that you guys understood what was up. Sound good? Hopefully it sounds good, right? Let's see. I was looking back at some things before. We are currently in preparation. I think I've said this several times. We are getting legislation ready for next year. That is a large undertaking. However, yesterday I had the opportunity to hold on. Yesterday I had the opportunity to go to Richmond, where we started talking with partners and really looking at all the different partnering organizations that will help us sort of message and get ourselves prepared for the now and for the later. Yes. And for the later. So I'm going to go through a couple of those things. Some of them I can talk about, some of them I can't, but just making sure that you understand that we are talking to people, trying to get prepared for what's next. Now, Isabel said, I've already heard the charge that the IRS will target families. Thank you for preempting. Yes, I'm going to say this again. The IRS is going to be first of all, hopefully getting better technology, and then hiring folks to look at those folks that are making over $400,000, individuals and businesses that are making over $400,000 that have been, benefiting from tax loopholes. That's important. It's super important that we be able to counter these arguments with facts. As a matter of fact, what I'll do is I'm going to go ahead and drop that Forbes article that I was reading here, and then maybe I will drop a copy of the bill. Now, the bill is long as hell. I try to read some of these bills. Let me just be honest, it gets rough. Inflation Reduction Act. So you'll hear IRA, right? IRA, and that's not talking about your financials. It's talking about the Inflation Reduction Act, right? The Inflation Reduction Act. So when you hear that, that's what we're talking about. Yeah, they had tech from 1970s. Let me pull up my partner meeting from yesterday so that we can chat a little bit about that. And I would love, this is the part of the work where when I say I need y'all, because when we talk about what's happening and what is not happening on the ground and what's resonating with voters and what is not, like, that's where you all come in to sort of check us, because what happens is in the Commonwealth we are sectioned off into these different regions, right? And the Hampton Roads region, quite frankly, in my humble opinion, is always kind of left out of the loop with what works here. We always kind of know what works in rural Virginia. We got that idea. They know what works in Northern Virginia, definitely in the Richmond area, Charlottesville. But like when it comes to the time, love, and care, and just the uniqueness of being the most northern South, right? We are the most northern, essentially. The Hampton Roads area is the most northern South. So while Virginia is in the South, I think that Southern culture shifts a bit once it starts shifting as you move your way up to Richmond. So we've got holding a whole lot of things in our hands, and we're going to need to start recognizing that just because things work in the other parts of the state don't mean it's going to work down here in Hampton Roads. We are transient, but we are stable. It's a lot to hold in our hands. We got a chance to talk to Planned Parenthood. I'm not going to say too much about what they talked to us about, but like we really are looking at the types of bills that could come across our desk, just keeping you guys informed. I said it again, I'll say it again and again. I'm going to be in Richmond on September 7th. September 7th. Now, we know that we're going up there because we've got some judges work to do, but preemptively, we don't know that this is going to happen, but we're just going to keep it on the back of our minds that there's a possibility that our governor could be throwing down some legislation, right? Because we're still in special session. And if you want to learn a little bit more about special session, in the notes, right, in our post, you can subscribe to our newsletter that'll be coming out this week, I think Wednesday or Thursday, sometime at the end of the week, the newsletter where I'm going to explain what a special session is and why we're still in session and still doing legislation preemptively. We are wrapping our minds around the fact that we could very well see some Born Alive bills. We could very well see some 15-week abortion standard bills. Like, it's real, right? And so being in Richmond yesterday really put it back into perspective that this ain't over. So just as we got a win in Kansas as a nation, that very next day or very soon thereafter, Indiana happened. So keeping our eye on the ball, there's a potential. We don't know, but listen, what we don't do, we don't set ourselves as for failure and not plan for the possibility. We got to hear from New Virginia majority. What's really important, like in their realm, guys, this year we will have this next election, we will have same day registration. Let me say that out loud again. There will be same day registration for folks that want to register to vote. And that's important because you can have folks say, I've had folks say, I'm not registered to vote, and that's okay. You can register the day you go down there. You'll get a provisional ballot, right? And you'll be able to vote. So we ain't got no excuse but to get our butts to the polls. Okay? None. Zip zero. Stingy with De Niro. we don't have any reason. Same day registration goes in effect, I think it said October 1st or something, this election Saturday, and that is going to be amazeballs. We got to hear from Repo Rising, which really is a great organization. They used to be NARAL, then they're NARAL Pro-Choice, and then they were Reproduction Now, I think, and now they're Repro Rising. This organization does, again, more advocacy in the space of reproductive rights. And I thought a very powerful message that they had. They let us know that currently there are 16 bans across the U.S. So when you're talking about this, there are already 16 bans on reproductive rights across the United States. And these decisions that people are doing, and if you came to my kickoff, I was like, for money, power, respect. First you get the money, then you get the power, and then some of them start respecting you. This what's happening with reproductive rights, this is about power, decisions, and control. Who gets power over our body? Who gets to make decisions on our body? And who's in control? And I don't think anyone thinks that it's the government that should be doing that. That's not the kind of power and decisions and control that we need our government making. They have some, and which was great. I thought that putting that into that perspective was amazing. Repo Rising, for any of you guys, let me see if I can get the website. As a matter of fact, I'm just going to ask Vince, can you throw Repo Rising's website in the chat? They're already doing rides for folks across that need care. But they have a student advocacy fellowship that they're doing. So if you know any young folks that are interested in getting in the space, they have a student advocacy piece. We got a chance to talk to the Virginia State Building and Trades Constructions. Really talked about prevailing wages, y'all. That's just meaning that when we do these projects, people aren't able to pay substandard rate wages. We need to get more people in the apprenticeship piece. Wage theft, and which is when this happens a lot, and locally there's something, and this is important because locally there's something that we can do about it, about ensuring that when our council takes on projects, that they do a what's called a PLA, a project labor agreement, right? Getting labor folks at the table when they're doing the project rather than after the project has been negotiated, because what they see across the Commonwealth, and quite frankly in a lot of different places when there are not project labor agreements, is wage theft, meaning where the developer fails to pay, or misclassification where the developer just says, all right, everybody's an independent contractor, so I ain't got to pay for no full-time, I ain't got to pay for no health, I ain't got to pay for all that. Those two things are robbing people in our communities, right? And what we know in construction in the Commonwealth, about 33% of companies are cheating their employees. So we need to institute a direct hire model, right? There's a lot when we talk about, and immediately what came to my mind was the casino project for us, which was really important about making sure that we have in writing, not just in good faith, jobs. We have that local folks will get jobs, that we will be very and pay fair wages. And so there's another thing that we can start pushing as we look and we're about to develop out military circle and these sorts of things. So there's a connection here between the work that we do and that we advocate for, because that's what's the most important piece to me right now, is who them jobs gonna go to, where that money. I'm not trying to make somebody in another state rich to go live where they are. I want to make it sure that people in our space and place can live in our space and place, can work and live right in our space and place. To that point, that's exactly what's happening on our campaign. We just had this conversation with a potential donor about who do we, the office of the 89th, use for our printing, for our mail marketing, for all these different, like, they want to know, who are you using? And quite frankly, most campaigns, they go to somebody up in Richmond, they may go out of state and things like that. And then that makes those people out of state fat pockets for all this money that you guys are donating to us right here. And since I've started, since the beginning, I've always taken a attitude that if I'm going to spend on something, I'm going to spend it here. And I sent him a list of places like Deadline Printing, Collie Printing, Max. Max is a service that we use for mailers that hires folks here in the area in Hampton Roads with disabilities to do our mailing. The only thing I have right now that is out of state is my fundraiser there. That person is up in Richmond, and I'm hoping that we can grow the talent here locally so that we can build that here, so that we don't have to go out in other places, that the money that gets filtered right into the office of the 89th to do business goes right into the community, whether it's first it's Norfolk, then it's Hampton Roads, then it's the Commonwealth. We do our best every single time, and that is why this wage piece is important. So if you're just joining us, what I'm going through is, yesterday I was in Richmond, getting the opportunity to talk to some of the partners across the state, and just sort of going through some of the folks that we've talked to. So that last one was the Virginia State Building and Trades Construction. We got a chance to talk to Freedom Virginia. Freedom Virginia is a really amazing organization about economic security. I believe that I'm going to be working with them on a bill. I can't really say too much about it yet, but I'm trying to get a bill together that's going to be helpful in the care industry. I'm really excited about it. But Freedom Virginia is actually doing some good work with getting us data to support the why for some of the things that we're going to do. And I'm going to pause for a second because I see some stuff in the chat. Okay, so regarding military Circle Mall, there's a lack of clarity about how stores that have been forced to relocate are being assisted and finding new location. This may not be your, I like that, your bailiwick, maybe council. Yes, this is a council thing. However, because I have some good networks, I did make some phone calls last week to folks that I know in the finance industry and in a couple different areas to talk to them about like going in. I believe that the economic development is supposed to be working with those businesses, but yes, that's, you got to put that pressure on the neck of council. Even if you're not, listen, the beautiful thing is that we can advocate Those business owners are probably scrambling right now. I know some of them are trying to figure it out, just trying to figure out where they're going to go. Some of them have told me that council members have reached out to them and are trying to help them, the viable businesses and things like that. But like it is okay to let them know that even though we're not directly affected, we're watching. You know, you can do that. You 100% can do that. And you should. And you should. Good question, Isabel. Ben says, stay busy and local. This is about, yeah. Stay. I wouldn't say stay busy. I'm going to say stay productive and local. This is a value. Yeah. Yes, it's a value. We've got to make sure that we stay aligned in that way. And if you're concerned, especially with the military circle mall stuff, y'all go to the mall. Go to the mall. There's a phenomenal bookstore in there, amazing toy store in there. Go reach the big bookstore is there. There was something I know I wanted to say that I missed out on. But yeah, it's go to the mall and even talk to those talk to some of those business. So note to my councilwoman, yeah, because they make decisions as a council, okay? And that's how that rolls. And there's no good ideas come from all different places. But yeah, patronize some of them businesses. We got time for that. We got Made in Norfolk's over there, right? Y'all know how much I love Made in Norfolk in the military circle area. A phenomenal business owner. I'm on the board of Reach, Reading Enriches All Children. Sorry, I had a blank for a second. These are places that add so much value to our community, and we deserve to make sure to have some checks and balances. Even if we're told that things are happening, it's okay to check and balance and go and make sure that the good work is happening. Yep. Shout out to Amir and Made in Norfolk. Go get you a maid. Like right now is the perfect time. As Amir and those folks are getting ready to move, go down there. Go get you some free books from the big bookstore. Tell all your friends. Go get you some Made in Norfolk gear. Right. That's what we need to be doing. All right. We got a chance to talk to League of Conservation Voters, which is beautiful. We're going to hopefully be getting some information from them. On just like how some of these things are impacting areas. Maybe we got a chance to talk to CASA, which is a Northern Virginia space, but hopefully on helping Spanish-speaking voters. Hopefully we're going to be getting some support down here. I spoke directly with one of the men there and was like, look, we've got a Spanish-speaking population here. We need the help. Let's engage the voters. We got a chance to talk to the Virginia Education Foundation, and guys, they gave us the number for how many postings as of, I think, last week, how many postings in the Commonwealth of Virginia for jobs there were for jobs in the education system. Are you ready for the number? There were over 10,500 job postings. We are in a crisis. Now, let me say this. I don't know how many there are normally when we are not in this sort of state. I don't know. But to hear 10,500, what I hear is larger classroom sizes, less staff, less support staff. And let me just, it's this undeniably is affecting the lives of children in low-income households and the lives of Black children in our Commonwealth directly. The numbers show it. Both of those subsets. Both. Because not all Black people are low income, right? And not all low income people are Black, vice versa, however you want to put it. Both of those subsets are going to suffer when it comes to this this workforce shortage, because we don't value. And guess why they not staying? I'm going to affirm it. I'm going to affirm why teachers and the data in the Commonwealth are saying no más, no more. Low pay, not enough support, burnout. Hello. Low pay, not enough support, burnout, right? Tired, right? We did not. We failed, and I know that I'm running up against time. I'm at 29 minutes and almost 30 seconds. We failed in the General Assembly to make sure that all that surplus money we had did exactly what we needed it to do, which was to increase that pay for real, for real. We have the largest pay penalty in the United States. What I mean by pay penalty is that when you compare other professions with bachelor's degrees to teachers and the money that they're making on the other side, we have the largest gap for educators. The largest gap. 32.7% is the penalty that educators in the Commonwealth take for becoming educators with their degree level. Something's wrong. Something's wrong. What did you say, Elizabeth? Legislators telling teachers that they can, that part too, right? That's support. What Isabel said is legislators telling teachers what they can and cannot teach. How about killing that creativity? As I was sitting there thinking, and I know I'm going to go over a bit, so if you bear with me, I would appreciate it. We are upside down state, to be exact. We learned is that we have a high earning capacity but low effort as it comes to being able to take care of our school systems. You know what I'm saying? For the types of the money that we have here, the wages that we have here, we have very low effort is what we were told. And as I was sort of sitting thinking about what this is, what is happening, with specifically what Isabel was saying, is like public education is supposed to take care of the public, right? And unfortunately, what I feel like is happening is we're going to have a lot of, the ACLU actually talked to us and told us be very careful, because there are going to be a lot of parents' rights bills, right? A lot of parents' rights bills. And what ends up happening is we start talking about parent rights and not parent partnership. Because when we have educators, they are co-parenting with us, right? So it's not necessarily parents' right, it's the parent partnership versus the parent's private interests. If you want your child to go to school where your particular private interests are aligned, then you go to private school. If you want a public partnership, right? You want a partnership, then you go to public schools. And that's not to say you can't get partnerships at private schools, but when we're talking about specific beliefs, ideologies that revolve around your chosen religious beliefs, then that's when you go to private school. That's why they're there, right? And I can say this as a parent that I sent my son to private school for a bit of time, and I remember when he was in kindergarten, I was stationed in Florida, and he wanted to grow his hair out. He wanted to grow his hair out, and the school absolutely said no, boys could not have long hair. And I'm saddened today. I'm saddened today because he's now a teenager, and he's still that little boy, and he's trying to grow his hair out, and he just wants it to be here now. He just wants the hair to be here now. He hasn't changed a whole lot, his demeanor and temperament. But I put him in a school based off my private interests. And I had to deal with that. And I'm still dealing with the effects of it, both positive and negative. And so when we have these conversations about parents' rights, I'm going to need you guys to help. Like, I'm going to need your support as we walk our way towards really combating some really amazing marketing, because here when we hear parents' rights, people are about, like, I'm not taking away your rights. This is not a everyone has a right to a public education, but not a right to control how that all of the things that happen within that public education piece. We can be partners in it, and that's important. Lab schools, I'm still shaky on lab schools because I'm feeling out my I am feeling out my feelings about what's happening, particularly with the lab schools and HBCUs, as I do believe that there are some things that are threatening to HBCUs, and also threatening to public education. Have lab schools worked? I've heard plenty of people tell me absolutely lab schools are phenomenal, but what I personally need to do is figure out, as we sort of see how this shapes, I'm skeptical. I can say that. I think I can say that a lot. I'm skeptical. I don't necessarily value how this investment. I want to make sure that our public schools still have some say over those sorts of things, in a partnership kind of way. But I think we need to do something, Chioma, because you're the third person this week, and it is Tuesday, to ask me about lab schools. That may be, and if you can keep me honest, that may be a sort of topic that we definitely need to pull at, having a lab school conversation, community conversations about lab school, because I want to get into the habit of having some evenings where we just talk about an issue, right? The issue of the evening, right? Where we can all sit down in the living room and talk it out. They haven't got that's part of it, is that they haven't got the details figured out. Benita says lab schools, how they're going to work. That and Benita, you're actually at a higher ed institution. Lab schools. If you have an issue with your child, talk it through with the teacher, the individual need. Accommodating. Yep. So, Bill, lab schools are short for laboratory schools. They are like teaching classrooms. So they are classrooms inside of I think yellow school is more like a charter school, not necessarily a lab school, but they are inside of a university where folks that are going into the education field can go in there and practice things and be a part of the classroom. So it's essentially like a laboratory classroom, if that makes any sense, Bill. Hopefully I answered your question. Did I? Hold on, I'm looking. Okay, yeah. So that's what they are. They're specifically like for demonstrations and things like that. So that's what a lab school is. And they're coming back here. All right, I gotta wind up because I can't keep y'all forever. We did, like I said, we talked to Unite Here, which is folks organizing permanent workers, like at airports. So the people that work the concessions, not necessarily the people that do the background work of baggage or drink service and things like that, unionizing them. ACLU, we know that they're going to be talking about, making sure that they've already shown, and this is what we got to keep our eye out, is that there may be legislation or means over the next year to try to fund crisis pregnancy centers and things like that. So they're keeping their eyes, helping us. Equity Virginia, taking care of our youths. So we got to take care of our youths, right? Like making sure that we are creating a public that is allowing people to live and be their full selves, while allowing people the space to have their own private identities and beliefs. Because this is a democracy, not a theocracy, and I believe in a separation of church and state, but I also believe in religious freedom. Those two things can coexist. They have for a bit. Does it create contention? Yes, but this is America. Welcome. Oh, Bill, it's okay. So you do, Bill. That you probably remember those. Most folks say, "Hey, I remember lab schools from a while back," but absolutely. So I'm going to get off of here. I've gone 8 minutes over, but I think it was worth it, and I appreciate you guys hanging in there with us. Like I said, as it comes to messaging, we are always willing. Our eyes, ears, and hearts are open. You can email the office at DELJ, like Jackie, glass milk, at house.virginia, spelled all the way out, .gov. So that's DELJ Glass at house, because we're in the House of Delegates, .virginia, spelled all the way out, .gov, because it's the government. It's the government. Look at Bruce over here, y'all. Look at Bruce over there on the couch scratching himself. All right, y'all. That means it's time to GO. You all signing off. Jackie, Mama, Navy vet, certified doer, and your laced up legislator for the House of Delegates 89th District. Hopefully, I will see you guys in the streets this weekend or this week, and I look forward to talking to you on Thursday. Adios. Oh, no .j. Not you gotta record. You gotta edit that. Del J. You put a dot between the Del events. I just saw that. All right. Be well. Bruce.